Hello. I'm Councilmember Jose Huizar. It's going to be a committee of one today. Any reports that come out of the committee will be a recommendation of the chair to the full council, meaning there's no recommendation. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be a communication from the chair.
Communication from the chair. Thank you. Thank you, and I apologize for the late start. We had a late council meeting today, why don't we begin? Item 1 is a vacation request on Venice Boulevard. Item 2 is a vacation request for alley south of 31st Street and Home Street. Item 3 will be continued at the request of Council District 11. That's item 3. And items 4 and 5 are related to the city special event process. We'll hear that today briefly. And the last item, 6, will continue indefinitely for right now, and we'll work with the fire department on making that presentation to this committee. So item 6 continued. Item 3 continued. Okay. I have some public speaking cards. All of them are number 1. If any, I got some on 2 as well. And 6, and public comment 4, 5. Okay, so the public comment cards, do we have any on the continued items? Yes. Pat McCosker, number 6. Not here? All right. And item number 3, we don't have any speaking cards on those. Okay, and anyone wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda, you could fill out a speaker's card and speak in public comment that in this committee we take up after all our items. So with that, let's take up item number 1.
Item number 1, continued from October 7, 2009. City engineer report relative to the vacation of Venice Boulevard, portion of northwesterly side between Mentone Avenue and alley northeasterly thereof. Vacation E1401065.
Is there staff on this item? Thank you. Can you briefly describe what the vacation is? What is it? What is the applicant asking for, et cetera, and just go through what the request is?
Dale Williams, Bureau of Engineering, Land Development Group. The applicant is applying for a vacation of the portion of the northwesterly side of Venice Boulevard. It's between Mentone Avenue and the alley to the northeast of that. The petitioner is Gabby Malouf. The area, the vacated area that's proposed is proposed parking for a restaurant and future bakery. And the area is currently developed with a patio and parking area right now in the area to be vacated. It's approximately...
So it's an alley right now? It's an alleyway?
It's not an alleyway. It's currently public right-of-way, but it's developed with parking and a patio structure that are encroached in the right-of-way.
The patio structure is on the...
Yeah, it's encroaching into the public right-of-way currently.
What do we currently use it for? And what department? What division?
It's public right-of-way, but it's not in use by the city.
It's public right-of-way, okay.
Yeah.
And is it being used?
It's being used by the applicant.
It's being used by the applicant, okay.
For parking and for a patio for the accompanying, for the nearby restaurant.
So it's a public right-of-way that's being used by the restaurant.
Yeah.
So what rights does the restaurant owner have right now on the public right-of-way, or how is this happening?
Well, currently, it would be an encroachment into the public right-of-way.
It's an encroachment?
Yeah.
Okay. And
I don't know the status of any revocable permits or anything, but it currently is encroaching into the public right-of-way.
it's encroaching, okay. And if, I'm trying to visualize, so this is a public right-of-way. If the encroachment wasn't there, what would happen in that space? Is it an alley that people would be...
My understanding is there's no public street improvements currently there. It's just a...
Okay. So it's an empty...
It's an alley he's encroaching on.
So it's just a public right-of-way. There's, if the encroachment did not exist, would it be for pedestrians, for vehicles? It's just an empty property.
And it's just property that would not be, there's already an existing street there, so that
Got it.
it's in excess of that.
He's asking for a vacation.
And it's in the proposed line for the exposition right-of-way project.
Well, yes, Bureau of Engineering is recommending denial based on the findings of the planning department, which found that it's in nonconformance with the general plan and that would be necessary for prospective public use. And specifically, they're referring to MTA's potential use of Venice Boulevard as a route for the extension of the exposition line.
Now, has MTA, and although I sit on the board, I don't know if we've actually taken an official action to designate a specific route. Has MTA taken a...
My understanding is that there is not a specific route. It shows it's one of the potential routes.
One of the potential routes, okay.
And according to the planning department, the vacation would adversely affect future transportation patterns by eliminating opportunities for future public transit improvements. And I think we may have somebody here from the planning department that can elaborate on that.
So it's planning and the Bureau of Engineering that's recommended the same?
Correct.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I have.
That's all? Okay. And what are the options for us as a city? We have an encroachment, we have someone who's using the property. The request is a vacation. Are there any other options?
Well, there would be the option of a revocable permit. My understanding is they have attempted to pursue that option, and I'm sorry, I don't know the outcome of what that was. I think the council district may have some input, have some information on that.
In your recommendation, do you propose a revocable permit, or you just are opposed to the application for a vacation?
We didn't make any determination about a revocable permit in the vacation.
Okay, and what would
a separate issue?
What would a revocable permit do, and what is that process?
A revocable permit would be issued by the district office for that area. It allows them to encroach into the public right-of-way with a non-standard improvement.
Julia Moy, Bureau of Engineering. Councilmember, hopefully you have in front of you a letter that Councilmember Rosenthal provided, sent to the committee on May 26th.
Mm-hmm.
In his letter, he noted that upon further investigation with BOE, they determined that a revocable permit is not feasible in this case.
You're with the Bureau of Engineering?
Yes.
It's not feasible?
If that's what's
that would
covered by
be
the West District.
Processed through a different office, through our West Los Angeles District Office, who Council District 11 has been working with.
And why is it not feasible?
I don't have
For
that.
the applicant, he said.
What was that?
He said it was not feasible for the applicant. You may want to ask the applicant.
We'll hear from him. But did you know about this?
I wasn't aware of that.
You weren't aware of this? Okay. Okay. But somebody in the Bureau of Engineering.
Yeah.
Okay. But you've been handling this matter, this case?
The vacation, yeah.
The vacation.
Just the vacation request.
Okay. Thank you very much. I wanted to stay up there. We may have some questions for you. We go to public comment. CD 11. Len, do you want to speak first, or do you want to wait till after the other? You want to wait till after the applicants, and then we have one public comment and the applicants. So, you want to speak now or afterwards, either way, or stay up here and be part of the conversation?
I can speak now.
Okay.
That's fine. A couple things. With regards, now the council member did conduct a site visit to the site and met with Gabby. We ended up, after we saw the report that said planning was concerned about saving the right-of-way for possible transit use, we did take a look at Metro's plans, and according to the long-range plan adopted in 2009, they didn't have a proposed extension going down to Venice for Expo, and I think they adopted a draft EIR that picked the right-of-way for Phase 1. Mm-hmm. So we found that the likelihood of a light rail going down that stretch of Venice Boulevard was not likely for 30 years, at least.
Okay.
With regards to the question about the revocable permit. I worked with people in the Western District Office, I believe it was Mike Patnay and Anthony Munoz.
What's the first person's name? Mike what?
Mike Patnay,
How do you spell that?
Patonai, and then Anthony Munoz. They indicated that a revocable permit wouldn't be feasible in this case because that is for temporary stuff that is put away at the end of the day, like chairs and tables, stuff like that. The existing condition now at Gabby's, I believe, is a more permanent patio structure type thing.
Okay.
So that was the reason why the revocable was not feasible.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Go to public speakers now. Gabby Malouf. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Gabby Malouf, and I'm owner of the property. It has a restaurant. I got this place about 10 years ago. It had a patio, and most of my business comes from that patio. I didn't know at that time that this patio was in a parking lot. And when I started, it was, we were like 5 employees, actually 2 employees and me. And now we have 40 employees. That means 40 families working from there. And the parking lot is very important, you know, to the business and to the 3 other businesses next to it, which is in my property. To mention to you, I was broke at that time when I bought this place. Right now, I own the property 3 years later. And thank God, you know, for all the things. And right now, because of the hardship and the tough economic situation, we're still finding a way to support these 40 employees and to keep them employed. And the parking lot is very essential for us. You know, it has a hardship, and I feel like this parking lot is an island between all these properties from Robertson to Sepulveda that were vacated. And I don't need anything more than a parking space for my restaurant and for the 2 other businesses in there. Right now, the vacated property next door to me has Subway, has Coffee Bean, has Cuman Tutorial. About 4 franchises are there. A lot of people are coming, and they come and they park in our parking lot, which there is no space enough for my employees at lunch because they start in the morning. So there is a lot of, you know, and this is the last thing I want right now.
You could finish.
This is the last thing I want right now is, you know, in a situation like this, to have my tenants coming and asking, you know, they want to leave or asking for lower rent, which essentially doesn't pay even 30% of my mortgage. So I'm really, you know, I come in front of you with the full support of my council member, and as I said, I don't need more than just parking and improvement of the parking, because right now it needs pavement, it needs a lot of things, and it looks like, you know, and I cannot do anything in it because I have no right to fix it or to make it look better. I really
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Robert Smith, is that your attorney? Oh, that's item 2, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, those are the other public speakers. All right, that does it for this. The only question I have is how certain MTA and whether they're going to build a line through there, and what would happen if, in fact, MTA decides to build the exposition line through that property in the future, and that line is eminent. Is there anything to say that they're not going to go through here, or that the MTA hasn't made a decision? And I think it would put the city in a bad predicament if, in fact, a couple of months from now, I mean, that decisions on that line are imminent. And what if this line is selected? I'm not as familiar with this particular area, the line that's being proposed there, so that what if a few months from now we get notice that MTA is going to build there, and the city looks pretty awkward that we had just given that property up through a vacation proceeding.
I did do some research on that aspect, council member, and so I took a look at the street width with the vacation. If you were to grant the vacation, according to my records from Navigate LA, the width of Venice at that point with the vacation would be 140 feet. I looked at the minimum roadway width for a major Class 1 highway, and that would be 102 feet. And then I took a look at the Appendix A of the draft Expo EIR, and it said that the subway width minimum for Expo Phase 1 was 19 feet. That includes 2 tracks, spacing between the 2 tracks, and then sidewalk. So with that 19 feet and 102 feet, I think that you could still grant this vacation and still have enough space to accommodate light rail.
Okay. Is there somebody else planning? Are you from planning? Can you shed some light on, are you guys aware of, is your report in here as well? And what are your reasonings for recommending denial of
The report should be in there. This was about 3 years ago, so when the report was written,
Did you write it?
I think I did.
Do you
It sounds real familiar.
Do you remember
Been a
what's
long
in?
3 years.
Okay, but you at least know what's in there.
I
You
do know.
Okay.
Yes, I do know. What we looked at was, and to describe it, so Venice Boulevard, very wide, wider than normal for those sort of boulevards, because it did at one point have a rail line down it. Then there's a right-of-way that exists between the street and the properties, which reads to pedestrians or whomever as a front yard. And a lot of the businesses along the street use that for chairs and tables and that sort of thing. Some vacations were given, my understanding, back in the 80s. So along the street, there are some vacations that are given, that exist, and some don't. But from our stance, knowing that this was an option for the Expo rail line, and I actually can't speak to what decision has been made, if any, in regard to the alignment, but knowing that that was an option, and knowing that the community for some time had looked to the potential for Venice Boulevard, given that the long stretch of kind of extra city property, we felt we didn't want to basically give up that land and then be in the predicament that you mentioned, where it might be used as a future rail line.
So, do you know when the MTA board is scheduled to make a decision on the line?
I don't, and I just heard of this meeting today, but I can certainly follow up if necessary, but I don't have the information with me right now.
Mr. Chairman, we could find out from the Expo Authority what the current alignment is and get back to you in the Planning Department.
Yeah, okay. And, okay, so that's one issue. The other issue is the revocable permit. Now, as you understand, did you have a reasoning on the revocable, anything to?
Yeah, our thought was also that we commonly see revocable permits, so we were questioning why that couldn't be used. The answer that I was given was that there's actually currently a permanent structure on that part of the property, which again is not in compliance if that's the case, and that what we do see is revocable permits for the seating, the tables and chairs and that sort of thing along the boulevard.
Yeah, I just would hate to start a precedent where people could encroach and then say, I have a permanent structure, I can't get I got to vacate, I can't do revocable permit. So, this is kind of concerning. I would ask then that we continue this item and get the response on the MTA, because if that decision is imminent and we proceed to vacate, I wouldn't want to be in a position that the city, particularly this committee, particularly this chairperson, decide to go forward and then say, hey, why are you guys vacating when we're decide to move forward with this? So we can't predict the future as well. I mean, if it's a decision that's not going to be made for over a year, I think we're in a different situation. But we do need to know when, we need to guess more or less when it's going to happen. So can I sign that to,
The CLA will look at
CLA? You guys can work planning and BOE and get us an answer? And we'll schedule this item for our next meeting. And also, on the revocable permit, I know that there was Mike Patonai and Anthony Munoz. There seems to be a difference of opinion here between planning and the Bureau of Engineering people who said that a revocable permit would not be feasible. So if you could meet with them and see if you guys could work out those differences.
I think the reason it's not feasible is because there's a permanent structure on the site.
Okay.
So a revocable permit cannot be used for permanent structures. Only things that then can be taken out that are very temporary. So I think that's why they're saying that's not feasible.
Okay. So what's your recommendation on the revocable permit issue? Can we give a revocable permit here? No, we can't?
Not if they'd like to continue to have a structure at that site.
Because they're going to have, I see what you're saying. Okay. All right, I see what you're saying. So because there's going to be a permanent structure now, revocable permit is not the correct procedure to use here.
If the structure is to remain, yes.
So if we don't vacate, what do you suggest? There's going to be a
Denial.
permanent structure. There's been an encroachment for a while, so what do we do? Tell them move it?
And that's building and safety.
Oh, so we're not going to go there yet. We just continue. We'll continue this, and you see what happens when you encroach? Put us in a bad spot. We're gonna continue this and find an answer to the MTA question. And I think once we find an answer to the MTA question, I just don't want to put my decision to be suspect because what if the Exposition Authority moves forward quickly? You know what? The Exposition Authority makes that decision, not the MTA board. So it's really research for the Exposition Authority, not the MTA board. So.
Yeah, it's the Acquisition Authority.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. We'll continue it and get that answer, and I think if the decision's not pending for another year or more, we could probably move forward, but if they're going to make a decision soon, I think we'd be better wait to see what direction they go. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next item.
Motion Rosendahl raised relative to the installation of a commemorative marker at the northwest corner of Venice and Lincoln Boulevards to commemorate the start of the internment of Japanese Americans living in the Venice community on April 25th, 1942.
No, that's item 2.
There's staff on this item?
That's the one we continue.
I had 6 and 2.
Item 2 is another.
That's item 2.
Item 2,
Was it item, okay, then,
Bureau of Engineering, you're up.
all right, well, let's try it again.
Item 2 is actually another vacation. It's,
Okay.
Do you support
Item
this?
2 would be the vacation of the alley south of 35th Street from Hope Street to its easterly terminus and future street easement from Grand Avenue to approximately 173 westerly thereof.
You guys are supportive? You guys are
Yes.
okay with this?
yeah.
No adverse impacts?
Shouldn't be any adverse impacts. We received no objections. We recommend approval, subject to the conditions outlined in the report. It's actually just a reapplication of a vacation that was approved back in 2003, but the conditions were not met before expiration.
What were those conditions?
I'd have to go forward here. I think, I want to understand the just various standard conditions.
They're minor conditions, not major stuff? Response?
Dedications, improvements, consents from adjoining properties.
What's on there now, do you know?
Let me take a look here. Oh, the applicant is,
Robert Smith, you are the representative for the applicant. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Councilmember Robert Smith from Latham Watkins, representing Public Storage, the applicant on this matter. Right now, it is an alleyway that is improved with parking spaces that are used for on-site parking for the site. There's also a portion which is adjacent to the existing storage facility, which is unimproved dirt track. It's a relatively small street vacation. It's about 4,600 square feet. It would be used to expand the parking, on-site parking, to allow an additional 11 parking spaces on site.
And Grand Storage Partners, what's it, so you're going to build additional parking? Grand Storage Partners, what do you have there?
The property has since been purchased by Public Storage. So we represented both companies in this, but now Public Storage owns the facility. It's a self-storage facility that's been around since about 1920. And Public Storage will be using for the same use as Grand Street Storage Partners.
Okay. Great.
And we support the recommendation.
Okay. So we'll move this item forward to council. There's a recommendation from the chair of the committee. So ordered. Thank you. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 4, continued from January 6, 2010 and June 16, 2010. Bureau of Street Services report response to motion, Weezer Perry, relative to the amendment of Municipal Code 41.20, requiring special event permit sponsors to be responsible for public notification of pending events and for the requirement be administered by the new one-stop special events permit office.
So we're taking 4 and 5 together. Why don't we take 4 and 5 together?
Okay. Additionally, would be the Office of Finance report response to motion Weezer Hahn relative to the development of a draft payment installment plan for nonprofit sponsors of special events and related matters. This item has also been referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
My staff indicates that the reports have not been completed, and perhaps another 45 days will allow some time, sufficient time to finish the reports. So if you could just update me quickly on where we are, what the status is, and
well, with item 4, we do have a report that's been submitted.
Oh, you do?
Yes. And,
item 4 you do, okay.
And I'm sorry, Gary Harris, Bureau of Street Services.
Okay.
For item 4, it's the issue of notification of events, and the recommendation was that the services of Film LA be employed to notify stakeholders of upcoming events. Our recommendation is that the Bureau of Street Services is already allowed by ordinance to create certain permit conditions without a change in ordinance, that we utilize that ability to add special conditions to all permits, that in addition to requiring applicants to gain 51% approval of property owners in the impacted area, that we include also proof of notification to all property owners or stakeholders in the impacted area, as well as all property owners in a 2-block perimeter outside the impacted area. This can be done by use of a flyer or door hanger used for the event notification approved by the Bureau that provides information on how to file opposition to any event with the Bureau of Street Services. In addition, we recommend that if the Department of Transportation opines that the event will have significant impact on traffic in the area, that the organizer is required to use electronic message boards to alert the community of traffic impact at least 14 days in advance of the event. We're also taking steps to improve the electronic notification procedure that the Bureau currently uses to notify stakeholders of events, and we anticipate that those will be in place very shortly. We think the combination of improved notification requirements for organizers, as well as message boards and electronic notification, will satisfy the request that was made by the motion.
Excellent. Do you guys have appropriate staffing to continue to do some of the work under your recommendations?
Well, we are working closely with the CAO on getting positions through the managed hiring process. We are in the process of hopefully obtaining a programmer analyst in the very near future, which is going to be essential to improving the electronic portion of this program.
Okay, thank you. Forward this report to full council.
Mr. Chair, are we referring to the June 15th Office of Finance report? That's all the clerk has.
No, this is the report from
Subsequent?
the Bureau of Street Services
Yeah,
on number
July
4.
29th?
July 29th.
July 29th report?
Okay, we have not received that one, or at least it's
Yeah.
not on the file.
So I'll give it to you at the end of the meeting. So we'll adopt that report. Case file number 093042, Special Events Policy Notification Process. Forwarded to full committee as a recommendation of the chair. Item 5.
Item 5, Mr. Chairman, this is Paul Smith from the CLA's office. We have been working closely with Commissioner Alarcon of the Board of Public Works to examine alternative payment plans for the costs associated with special events. We initially used one of the sections of the ordinance relative to major venues where we can actually contract with a vendor, a sponsor, organizer of an event. We did this with Fiesta Broadway. As on your motion, we put together a contract, allowed them to do an upfront payment, then some installment payments over a period of time. We've also had some other pilot agreements, which weren't a full contract. They were more of an agreement between the event sponsor, the Board of Public Works, under the signature of Commissioner Alarcon, and the council office, which allowed an event to pay some upfront and then pay the remaining balance of what was city costs associated with the events over a month or two. We've had maybe 3 or 4 of these experiences. We're still examining how the language should be written, what conditions, what would trigger that kind of an installment or alternative payment plan. As you recall, Mr. Chairman, at the beginning of this in October, when the new special events ordinance became operative, the ordinance specifies that the event organizer must pay the full amount up front prior to receiving the permits from Bureau of Street Services and other agencies. From time to time, that's been proven to be difficult for some of these organizations, especially in this transition period where they all of a sudden have some accurate cost estimates as to how much these events are going to cost. At the request of some of the council offices and others, we've tried to devise a mechanism maybe less than what would be required under a contract under major venues, but are still valid instruments that will allow them to pay some money up front and then installments relatively soon after the event is over. We're still working with the Commissioner's office to develop language on this. We'll get back to you in the time frame that you have indicated.
All righty. Tired? Didn't want to do this anymore? Gave up on us? Just leaving? All right, I'll fend for myself. 45 days?
We'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll continue this for 45 days. Clyde Williams, Public Works, Dr. Clyde Williams, Public Speaker, items 4 and 5.
So 4 and 5 are continued for
They're
45
continued.
days.
You want to speak on that, or do you want to speak on, you could speak on those items, or you could, you also have a public comment card, so whatever you want to do.
I'll just take 3 minutes.
Yo, what?
I'll take 3 minutes.
Sure.
But everything, all in.
4 minutes, 4 minutes.
Now,
4 minutes.
I can get
There you
3.
go.
It's 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Special events. We'd like to know a procedure. Maybe there should be a written procedure that the neighborhood councils can promote through the nonprofits so that we all have the same page to get a special event done. So also on the payment of it, maybe that should be incorporated together. Just a simple web page and/or hard copy system of how to do this thing. Okay, that's for 4 and 5. One-stop shopping, say, on the internet, so that we know what to do and when to do it, maybe with the forms and everything all in one page. Okay. Change the subject. Department of Public Works. Yesterday, the Bureau of Sanitation held a very nice listening meeting over on the northeast side for the on-site wastewater treatment system ordinance that's coming out. They actually changed their mind. Maybe they will have it done by the end of December. Maybe they won't if there's enough controversy. The important thing was that backing out from December the 31st, when it has to go to the state, they need to have an ordinance approved sometime in late November. However, they forget that they're trying to incorporate the neighborhood councils, and neighborhood councils don't act very quickly, usually anywhere from 45 to 60 days to get a resolution if they want support. So what we recommended to them was that they get a placeholder issue on the agendas for all of the relevant neighborhood councils for the month of September. Then we can continue it, much like other people continue issues, until it's appropriate. There was also a request to them to give us a draft ordinance, not in late November, but a draft ordinance so that people can start seeing what's going to be done in the ordinance in a timely fashion, especially the fees, fines, procedures, and what has to go through building and safety, which will be an important issue. So I believe, especially since various people have Mount Washington, we in fact in LA 32 have University Hills, and there are some septic tanks up there supposedly. We did see first ever for general consumption a map of where the septic tanks are. So it was a good session. However, they need to give us draft ordinances before the deadline so that we can react to them in a more meaningful manner than what was done with the low impact development through the stormwater program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that ends our items. Is that correct, City Clerk?
That is all.
Okay, so we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.